James Okocha stood by the tall windows in his big apartment. The city lights shone brightly, but he felt no joy looking at them. At 38, James was rich and successful. He owned big companies, a fancy house, and cars that people dreamed of having. But none of it made him happy. Deep down, he felt lonely. James had tried marriage 2 times, but both ended badly. Each time he felt more hurt and decided not to trust anyone again. Now his only focus was his work. But one thought kept coming back to him. Who would carry on his name? He had no wife, no child, and no one to leave his success to. He wanted an heir, someone to continue the Okocha name and the empire he had built. While James sat in his quiet, lonely home, Anna Nwosu sat on the cold sidewalk of a busy street. Her head was bent over a piece of dirty cardboard as she drew with a pencil. Anna was only 26, but life had been hard for her. She was homeless, with no one to help her. Drawing was her only escape. Once, Anna dreamed of being an artist. She had gone to art school, and her teachers said she had great talent. But after her mother died and her father left her, everything fell apart. She had no family, no money, and nowhere to go. She had to drop out of school. Now she sat on the streets every day, drawing pictures to forget the pain in her heart. As people walked past her, too busy to notice, Anna's pencil moved quickly, sketching the face of a crying woman. She didn't draw for money or fame. She drew to let out the feelings she kept inside. James and Anna lived in completely different worlds, but their lives were about to collide. Neither of them could guess how much everything was about to change. James Okocha sat in his sleek black car, tapping his fingers on the steering wheel. He had made up his mind. He would find a way to have a child. He didn't want love or marriage. He just wanted an heir. To him, this was a business decision, something he could handle like one of his many deals. Driving through the city streets, James stared at the world outside his tinted windows. The noise, the chaos, the people, none of it touched him. He felt like an outsider looking in. As he stopped at a red light near the city center, his eyes caught something unusual. A young woman sat on the sidewalk, her head bent over a piece of cardboard. Her brown hair was messy, and her clothes were worn, but she wasn't begging or holding a sign. Instead, she was drawing. James squinted, curious. She seemed completely lost in her work, her pencil moving quickly over the cardboard. People walked past her without a second glance, but she didn't seem to care. There was something about her that held his attention, a quiet strength in the way she focused, as if the noisy world around her didn't exist. The light turned green, and the car behind him honked impatiently. James drove on, but his thoughts stayed with the woman on the sidewalk. Who was she? Why was she there? And why couldn't he stop thinking about her? A few blocks later, James found himself pulling into a parking lot. He sat there, staring at the steering wheel. This is ridiculous, he muttered to himself, but the feeling wouldn't go away. Before he could change his mind, James turned the car around and drove back to where he had seen her. She was still there, now shading in part of her drawing. He parked by the curb and rolled down his window. "Hey you," he called out. The woman looked up, her blue eyes narrowing as she studied him. "What do you want?" she asked, her voice firm but wary. "Come here," James said, his tone calm but commanding. She hesitated, clutching her pencil tightly. "Why?" "I want to talk," he said simply. Her lips tightened, and for a moment James thought she would ignore him. But then, slowly, she stood up and walked over. Up close, she looked even younger than he'd thought, but there was a tiredness in her eyes that spoke of a hard life. "What do you want?" she asked again, her voice sharper now. James hesitated, realizing he hadn't planned what to say. He decided to keep it simple. "Get in the car. I'll take you somewhere warm and we can talk." The woman laughed bitterly. "I'm not stupid. If you think—" "I'm not here to hurt you," James interrupted. "I have an offer, something that could change your life. But I'm not going to explain it out here." She studied him for a long moment, then glanced at his expensive car. "Why would a man like you want to help someone like me?" "You'll understand if you come with me," James said. "If not, fine, stay here." After a moment's hesitation, she sighed and got into the car. As James drove, the silence between them was heavy. Finally, he broke it. "What's your name?" "Anna," she said quietly. "Anna Nwosu." "I'm James Okocha," he replied. Anna didn't say anything, but her hands fidgeted nervously in her lap. James glanced at her. "I'll explain everything when we get there." The car turned into the parking lot of a quiet cafe. James led Anna inside and picked a corner table away from the other customers. "So," Anna said, crossing her arms, "what's this all about?" James leaned forward, his expression serious. "I need someone to carry my child, and I'm willing to pay you more money than you've ever seen in your life to do it." Anna blinked, stunned into silence. "You're joking." "I'm not," James said calmly. Anna stared at James, her mouth slightly open. "You want me to—" "What?" she asked, her voice filled with disbelief. "I need an heir," James said plainly, leaning back in his chair. "I don't want a relationship or a wife. I just want someone to carry my child. In return, I'll make sure you're taken care of during the pregnancy, and I'll give you enough money to start a new life after the baby is born." Anna couldn't believe what she was hearing. She looked down at her hands, her fingers still gripping the edge of the table. "Why me?" she asked after a long pause. "I saw you on the street," James replied. "You seem strong. You've been through a lot and you're still standing. That's the kind of person I want." Anna laughed bitterly. "You know nothing about me." "You're right," James said. "But I know enough to see you're not like most people, and I think we can help each other." Anna's mind raced. She didn't trust this man, and the idea of having a child for someone she barely knew felt wrong. But then she thought about her life. The cold nights on the street, the hunger that gnawed at her stomach, the hopelessness that weighed her down every day. "I don't know," Anna said finally, shaking her head. "This is crazy." "It's not crazy," James said. "It's practical. You need a way out and I need an heir. This could change your life, Anna." "Why don't you just adopt?" she asked, her tone sharp. James's jaw tightened. "I want a child that's my blood. Adoption comes with complications I'm not willing to deal with." Anna leaned back in her chair, overwhelmed. "What happens after the baby is born?" "You'll be free," James said. "You'll get the money I promised, and you can live your life however you want. There won't be any strings attached." She narrowed her eyes at him. "How do I know you won't change your mind and take me to court or something?" "You'll have a contract," James said. "It will be legally binding. You'll be protected." Anna looked away, her heart pounding. She wanted to say no, to walk out of the cafe and never look back. But where would she go? Back to the streets? Back to the life she hated? She glanced at James, who sat there calmly, waiting for her answer. He didn't seem like the type to lie or make empty promises. But could she really trust him? "I need time to think," Anna said finally. James nodded. "Take 24 hours. After that, I'll move on." Anna stood up, her legs shaky beneath her. "Thanks for the offer," she said, unsure of what else to say. "Think carefully," James said as she turned to leave. "This is a chance to change everything." That night, Anna sat in the park, staring at the cloudy sky. James's words echoed in her mind. This is a chance to change everything. She had nothing to lose, no home, no family, no future. But could she really go through with it? The next morning, Anna woke up on a park bench, her body aching from the cold. She had barely slept, her mind circling around James's offer. She hated the idea of being part of such a strange arrangement, but the thought of going back to her hopeless life made her stomach churn. She took a deep breath, brushed off her coat, and walked toward the cafe where she had met James. Her heart pounded with every step. When she pushed open the door, James was already there, sitting at the same corner table. He looked up as she approached, his expression unreadable. "You've decided?" he asked simply. Anna sat down across from him. "I'll do it," she said, her voice steady even though her hands were trembling. James nodded as if he had expected this. Good. I've already started preparing everything. You'll move into my home today. Anna blinked. Today? Isn't that too fast? I don't waste time, James said. We'll have a contract ready for you to sign by the evening. It will lay out everything, your responsibilities and mine. You'll be taken care of from now on. Anna bit her lip. And the money? You'll keep your promise? James's gaze was firm. Yes. Once the child is born, you'll get what we agreed on. Enough to start over anywhere you want. For a moment, Anna thought about backing out. This was too sudden, too overwhelming. But then she thought about the cold nights, the hunger, and the fear of being stuck in the same cycle forever. Fine, she said, her voice quiet. Let's go, James said, standing up and leading her to his car. The drive to James's estate felt surreal to Anna. She stared out the window as the city gave way to wide roads and sprawling houses. When they arrived, the gates to his mansion swung open, revealing a massive house surrounded by perfectly trimmed gardens. Anna swallowed hard. She had never seen anything like it. Inside, the house was even more intimidating. Marble floors, tall ceilings, and sparkling chandeliers made her feel completely out of place. This is where you'll stay, James said, showing her to a spacious bedroom. The bed was huge, covered in soft white sheets, and the windows overlooked the garden. Anna ran her fingers over the fabric of the bedspread, unable to hide her awe. This doesn't feel real, she whispered. It's real, James said. You'll get used to it. He turned to leave but paused at the door. There's one more thing, he said. My assistant, Mr. Williams, will bring the contract tonight. Make sure you read it carefully before signing. Anna nodded. Okay. After James left, Anna sat on the edge of the bed, trying to process everything. It was overwhelming. This house, this deal, this new life. She didn't know what she had gotten herself into, but she knew there was no turning back now. She was desperate and homeless. She also needed the money to go back to school. The terms were clear. She would carry James's child, and in return, he would provide her with everything she needed. Once the child was born, she would leave with enough money to start a new life. It sounded simple, but as she sat there, the weight of what she had agreed to settled heavily on her chest. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Anna adjusted to life in James's mansion, but it wasn't easy. The staff, though polite, kept their distance, and the house felt more like a museum than a home. She often wandered its grand halls, feeling out of place among the marble floors and sparkling chandeliers. James, true to his word, ensured she had everything she needed, but he remained distant. He was polite but cold, their interactions limited to brief conversations during meals or updates on her medical checkups. One evening, as Anna walked through the house, she stumbled upon a room she hadn't seen before. Inside was a bright studio filled with art supplies, paints, pencils, canvases, and even an easel. On the table was a small note in James's neat handwriting. You mentioned you loved to draw. I thought this might help. Anna stared at the note, her chest tightening. For a man who seemed so detached, this small gesture felt strangely personal. A week later, Anna and James found themselves sharing dinner in the mansion's grand dining room. It was a rare moment when they were both relaxed. You've been quiet, James said, breaking the silence. Anna shrugged. I'm still getting used to all of this. It's overwhelming. I imagine it would be, James admitted. He hesitated, then added, You've been through a lot, haven't you? Anna glanced at him, surprised by his question. She nodded. Yeah, life hasn't been kind, but I guess it made me stronger. James's gaze softened. Strength is something I admire. They talked late into the night, sharing stories they hadn't told anyone before. James spoke about his estranged relationship with his father, a man who had valued money over family. Anna opened up about her dreams of becoming an artist and how life had stolen that dream from her. For the first time, they felt like equals, two broken souls finding a strange comfort in each other's company. One thing led to another, and before the night ended, they shared a moment of intimacy that neither had expected. A few weeks later, Anna felt different. She couldn't explain it,
But something inside her had changed. A doctor's appointment confirmed what she already suspected. She was pregnant. The news filled her with a mix of emotions. On one hand, this was what she had agreed to. On the other, she couldn't ignore the small spark of attachment she already felt to the life growing inside her. As the weeks passed, Anna began to question her decision. Could she really walk away from her child? Could she hand over a baby she was already starting to love? One morning, Anna was sitting in the garden when a sharp voice interrupted her thoughts. "And who are you supposed to be?" Anna turned to see a well-dressed woman standing at the edge of the garden. Her posture was stiff, her gaze cold. "I'm Anna," she said cautiously. "I'm Linda Okocha," the woman replied, her tone dripping with judgment. "James's sister." Linda wasted no time making her intentions clear. She questioned Anna's presence, her intentions, and even her character. "How do I know you're not just here to take advantage of my brother?" she demanded. Anna felt her chest tighten, but she refused to back down. "I'm not here for his money," she said firmly. "I'm here because we made an agreement. That's all." Linda wasn't convinced. Over the next few days, she planted seeds of doubt in James's mind, questioning whether Anna could be trusted. James, though conflicted, couldn't ignore his sister's words entirely. Despite Linda's interference, James found himself spending more time with Anna. He couldn't explain it, but there was something about her honesty and strong will that drew him in. One evening, as they sat in the studio he had set up for her, James opened up about his father. "He never cared about me," James said, staring at the floor. "All he wanted was control over me, over everything." Anna listened quietly and then said, "I know what it's like to feel abandoned. My father left me too, after my mom died. It's hard to trust anyone after that." Their shared pain created a bond neither of them had expected. For the first time, James felt like he could let his guard down, and Anna began to see that beneath his cold exterior was a man who had been hurt just like her. Anna sat on a small couch in the luxurious foyer, her hand resting on her belly. She was just starting to show, and every little kick or flutter reminded her that a new life was growing inside her. What she hadn't expected was how much she would care for the child already. The agreement she'd signed with James now felt like a weight around her neck. She had told herself it was just a deal, but the thought of handing over her baby after birth made her chest tighten. This wasn't just any child, it was hers. Meanwhile, James was spending more time with Anna. He wasn't sure why, but something about her honesty and strength made him feel at ease. They shared quiet moments in the art studio, talked about their dreams and fears, and even laughed together over small things. One evening, James looked over at her. "You've changed since you first came here," he said. Anna smiled softly. "Maybe it's because I feel safe, for the first time in a long time." James paused, his eyes serious. "You deserve to feel safe, Anna. I'll make sure nothing happens to you or the baby." Anna wanted to believe him, but her mind was clouded with doubt. Would he feel the same way when he knew everything about her? In another part of the mansion, Linda Okocha sat in the living room, her phone pressed to her ear. "I want everything you can find on her," she told the private investigator she had hired. "I don't trust her, and I'm not going to let my brother ruin his life because of some gold digger." Over the next few days, Linda received files, photos, and records about Anna's past. Among the findings was something she knew would shake James. Anna had a criminal record. The next morning, Linda barged into James's office, dropping a folder on his desk. "You need to see this," she said sharply. James frowned as he opened the folder. Inside were documents showing that Anna had been arrested for shoplifting when she was 17. There was also a report about her being homeless and a note about her being expelled from art school for missing too many classes. "What is this supposed to prove?" James asked, his voice calm but cold. "It proves she's not who she says she is," Linda replied. "She's been hiding things from you." James's face hardened. "Leave, Linda. But leave." Linda huffed but left the room, slamming the door behind her. Later that evening, James found Anna in the art studio, painting quietly. He stood in the doorway for a moment before stepping inside. "Anna, we need to talk," he said. She turned, her face falling when she saw the serious look in his eyes. "What's wrong?" "I know about your past," James said, holding up the folder. "Why didn't you tell me you had a criminal record?" Anna froze, her heart pounding. "I was going to tell you," she said quietly. "But I was scared. I didn't want you to think I was a bad person." James crossed his arms. "Why did you do it?" Anna took a deep breath, tears filling her eyes. "I was a kid. My mom had just died and my dad left me. I had no money, no food, no one to help me. I stole a few things to survive. It wasn't right, but I didn't have a choice." James's expression softened. He could see the pain in her eyes, the shame she carried. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked gently. "Because I didn't think you'd understand," Anna said, wiping her tears. "People always see me as a criminal, as someone who's not good enough."
"I didn't want you to see me that way too." James stepped closer, his voice firm but kind. "Anna, I don't care about your past. What matters to me is who you are now. And I see someone strong, someone who's been through hell and kept going. That's what I care about." Anna looked up at him, surprised by his words. "You really mean that?" "I do," James said. "But from now on, no more secrets. I want to know everything, no matter how hard it is." Anna nodded, relief washing over her. For the first time in a long time, she felt like someone truly saw her, not just her mistakes, but who she was beneath them.
Anna stood in the garden, her hand resting on her growing belly. The air was cool, the scent of fresh flowers surrounding her, but her mind was far from peaceful. She couldn't shake the growing feelings she had for James. He had surprised her in so many ways, showing her kindness and understanding when she had expected only coldness. But those feelings terrified her. Falling for James wasn't part of the deal. Inside the mansion, Linda paced the living room, her phone in hand. Her conversation with Julia, James's ex-wife, had gone exactly as she hoped. "I'll visit soon," Julia had said, her voice dripping with charm. "I've been thinking about James a lot lately. Maybe we were too quick to give up on each other." Linda smiled to herself. She couldn't stand Anna and didn't trust her. But Julia was perfect. She was polished, wealthy, and most importantly, Linda's close friend. Linda was convinced that Julia was the right woman for James and the child. A few days later, the doorbell rang. Anna, sitting in the art studio, heard the sound but didn't think much of it until a woman's voice echoed through the house. "James, it's been so long." Curious, Anna stepped out of the studio and froze when she saw the scene in the grand hallway. A tall, glamorous woman with flowing hair and a designer bag stood smiling at James. She reached out to hug him, and for a moment, James seemed unsure. Then he stiffened, returning the gesture with a polite but distant expression. "Julia," James said, "what are you doing here?" "I couldn't stay away," Julia said with a coy smile. "I've been thinking about us. I made a mistake leaving you." Anna's heart sank as she watched. She had heard about James's ex-wife in passing, but hadn't expected to see her. Julia was beautiful, confident, and clearly still interested in James. As Julia talked animatedly with James, Linda appeared, her smile smug. "I thought it would be nice to have Julia visit," Linda said, throwing a glance at Anna. Anna felt out of place, like an intruder in someone else's story. Over the next few days, Julia made herself at home in the mansion. She spent her time reminiscing with James, dropping hints about how they could start over. "The child will need a mother," Julia said one evening over dinner. "And who better than someone who knows you, James? Someone who loves you." James remained polite but distant, clearly unsure of Julia's sudden interest. Anna, meanwhile, tried to keep her distance, but it was impossible to ignore Julia's presence and the way she seemed to fit into James's world. For the first time, Anna felt truly jealous. One afternoon, Julia found Anna in the garden. "You're the one carrying James's child," Julia said, her tone almost mocking. "Yes," Anna replied, keeping her voice steady. "Well," Julia said, tilting her head, "I suppose I should thank you. But don't get too comfortable. Once the baby is born, I'll be the one raising it with James. He'll need someone who truly understands him." Anna felt her stomach twist, but she refused to show it. "We'll see," she said calmly before walking away. That night, lay on her bed, her emotions swirling. She realized it wasn't just jealousy she was feeling. It was something deeper. She wasn't just attached to the baby. She was attached to James. "I'm in love with him," she whispered to herself, the words both a revelation and a burden. But what could she do about it? James was polite to her, even kind, but he had never shown any sign of wanting more than their agreement. And now, with Julia back in the picture, Anna felt more unsure than ever. The next evening, James found Anna in the art studio. She was sitting by the window, staring out at the night sky. "You've been quiet," he said, sitting down across from her. "There's been a lot on my mind," Anna admitted. James hesitated before speaking. "I didn't invite Julia here, if that's what you're thinking. Linda has her own ideas about my life." Anna looked at him, her heart aching. "She seems like she's still in love with you." James sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Julia is complicated. She left me because I wasn't the man she wanted me to be. She said I was too cold, too distant, and maybe she was right. But I'm not sure why she's back now." Anna hesitated, then said softly, "Maybe she sees what I see, that you're not cold. You just don't let people see the real you." James's eyes met hers, and for a moment the tension between them felt almost unbearable. He reached out, gently covering her hand with his. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for seeing me." Anna's heart pounded in her chest. She wanted to tell him everything, how she felt, how much he had come to mean to her, but the words caught in her throat. Instead, they sat in silence, their hands still touching, as the night stretched on. Julia's presence in the mansion was like a storm cloud that refused to leave. Every moment she spent with James seemed calculated, every glance at Anna filled with disdain. Anna tried to keep herself busy, retreating to the art studio or taking long walks in the garden, but the tension was impossible to escape. Linda, meanwhile, used every opportunity to undermine Anna. "She doesn't belong here," Linda said to James one evening. "You've done enough for her. Once the baby is born, send her on her way. And Julia, she's the right woman for you. She always was." James's patience was wearing thin. "Linda, this isn't your decision," he replied coldly. "Stay out of it." But Linda wasn't one to back down easily. One evening, Julia cornered James in his office. "I don't know why you're being so stubborn," she said, leaning against his desk. "We were good together once. We can be again. Think about it, James. This child will need a mother. I'm the perfect choice." James looked at her. "Julia, you left because you couldn't handle who I am. You wanted me to be someone else, someone more open, more available. I'm not that man, and I never will be." Julia flinched but recovered quickly. "People change, James. Maybe we could try again, for the child's sake." James stood, his tone firm. "This child will have everything they need. If that includes a mother figure, I'll find one on my terms, not because you suddenly regret leaving. I don't need you, and I don't want you back." Julia's face fell, and for the first time her confidence wavered. "You're making a mistake," she said quietly. "No," James replied. "The mistake was ever thinking you cared about me more than what I could give you. Please leave, Julia. This is not your home anymore." The next morning, Julia packed her things and left the mansion. As she climbed into her car, she shot Anna a glare that sent chills down her spine. "Enjoy this while it lasts," Julia said bitterly. "You won't be here forever." Anna said nothing, watching as the car disappeared down the long driveway. Linda was furious when she learned that James had sent Julia away. "What are you thinking?" she snapped at him. "Julia is perfect for you. That girl, she spat, referring to Anna, is nothing but trouble. You're risking everything for her. James, his patience at its limit, shot her a cold glare. Enough, Linda. This is my life, my child, and my decision. I won't have you interfering anymore. Linda's jaw tightened, but she said nothing. Instead, she retreated to her room, her hatred for Anna burning hotter than ever. Though Julia was gone, Anna couldn't shake the feeling of being unwanted in the house. She could sense Linda's animosity every time they crossed paths. And even though James had defended her, Anna still felt like an outsider. As the weeks passed and her belly grew, so did her attachment to the baby. She found herself talking to the child as she painted in the studio, but there was always a shadow over her thoughts, a reminder that this wasn't her baby to keep. One evening, as Anna stood on the balcony watching the sunset, James joined her. He leaned on the railing beside her, his expression calm. "Are you okay?" he asked softly. Anna hesitated, then nodded. "It's just hard sometimes. I feel like I don't belong here." James turned to her, his gaze steady. "You belong here, Anna. Don't let Linda or Julia make you think otherwise." Anna smiled faintly. "It's not just them. It's this whole situation. I didn't expect to feel like this." She rested a hand on her belly. James studied her for a moment, then said, "You've been through a lot, and you've handled it better than most people would. You're stronger than you think." Anna looked at him, her heart aching. She wanted to tell him everything, how much she cared for him, how much this child already meant to her. But she couldn't bring herself to say the words. Instead, she said, "Thank you, James, for everything." They stood there in silence, each lost in their own thoughts. The tension in the Okocha mansion was thick enough to cut with a knife. Linda's disdain for Anna was no longer hidden behind sharp words or glares. It was clear in everything she did. Every small kindness James showed Anna seemed to fuel Linda's anger, and it was only a matter of time before she acted on it. One morning, Linda stormed into James's office, her face red with fury. "You're letting that woman ruin everything," she snapped, slamming a folder onto his desk. "What now, Linda?" James asked, his tone weary. "She's playing you, James. This isn't about the child. It's about your money and your name. How do you know she's not lying about everything?" James's patience finally snapped. He stood, towering over his sister. "Enough, Linda. I've told you to stay out of this. Anna is here because I chose her. If you can't accept that, maybe it's time for you to leave." Linda's mouth fell open in shock. "You're choosing her over your own family?" "I'm choosing peace over your constant interference," James replied firmly. "This is my life, and you don't get a say in it anymore." Linda stormed out of the room, her heels clicking angrily against the marble floor. But she wasn't done, not by a long shot. A few days later, James insisted on accompanying Anna to her routine medical appointment. Anna was nervous, not just about the checkup, but about being in such close proximity to James after their recent quiet moments together. The doctor greeted them warmly and began the ultrasound. Anna lay on the examination table, clutching the edge as the cold gel was applied to her belly. James stood nearby, his arms crossed, but his gaze focused intently on the monitor. As the doctor moved the transducer, the rhythmic sound of a heartbeat filled the room. Anna smiled, tears springing to her eyes. But then, a second, equally steady heartbeat joined the first. The doctor's face lit up. "Well, this is a surprise," she said. "You're having twins." Anna's jaw dropped. "Twins?" James leaned forward, his usually stoic face showing rare emotion. "Are you sure?" The doctor nodded, pointing to the screen. "Here's baby 1 and here's baby 2. Both are healthy and growing perfectly." Anna stared at the screen, a mix of awe and fear washing over her. 2 babies, 2 lives. She had agreed to this deal thinking it would be 1 child, but this changed everything. James was silent as they left the clinic. That evening, Anna sat in the art studio, her mind racing. She couldn't stop thinking about the twins. They weren't just part of an agreement anymore. They were real, and they were hers. James found her there, standing in the doorway for a moment before speaking. "Twins," he said, as if testing the word. Anna turned to him, unsure of what to say. "I didn't expect this," she admitted. "Neither did I," James replied, stepping inside. "But it's not a bad thing." Anna blinked in surprise. "You're okay with this?" James hesitated, then nodded. "It's a lot to process, but yes, I've spent my whole life planning everything, controlling every outcome. This is something I didn't see coming. But maybe it's what I need." Anna looked at him, her heart aching. She saw something in him she hadn't seen before, a hint of vulnerability, of someone who was finally letting go of his need for control. "James," she said softly, "these babies, they're more than just part of a deal to me." He met her gaze, his eyes searching hers. "I know," he said quietly, "and they're more than just heirs to me." For a moment, they simply looked at each other, the weight of unspoken words hanging between them. Meanwhile, Linda was plotting. She knew she had lost James's ear, but she wasn't ready to give up. She made a call to a lawyer she knew, hoping to find a way to challenge Anna's place in James's life and, if possible, the arrangement they had made. Anna sat in the nursery, running her hands over the soft blankets that had been carefully arranged in the cribs. The room was beautiful, painted in soft pastel colors with toys and books neatly lined up on shelves. It was everything a child could want, but every time Anna looked at it, her chest tightened. She had agreed to this arrangement, thinking it was just a deal. But now, as the twins grew inside her, she couldn't ignore the love she already felt for them. The thought of handing them over after birth felt impossible. Yet, she didn't know how to tell James. James had been different lately. Though he still carried his usual calm demeanor, Anna noticed the small things he did, making sure she had everything she needed, sitting with her during meals, and even asking about the babies more often. One afternoon, Anna was in the garden, trying to clear her mind, when James joined her. "You should sit," he said gently. "The doctor said to avoid standing for too long." Anna smiled. "I'm fine, James. You worry too much." "Someone has to," he replied, his voice soft. They walked together for a while, and for the first time, Anna felt like she wasn't just a part of a contract. She felt cared for. A week later, James insisted on accompanying Anna to another medical appointment. Though she was nervous, she didn't argue. In the clinic, the doctor began the ultrasound, and the rhythmic sound of 2 strong heartbeats filled the room. Anna's eyes welled with tears, and she instinctively reached for James's hand. To her surprise, he didn't pull away. Instead, he squeezed her hand gently, his eyes fixed on the monitor. "They're strong," the doctor said with a smile. "You've got 2 healthy babies here." Anna turned to James, and for the first time she saw something in his eyes she hadn't expected. Emotion. "They're amazing," he said quietly. As they left the clinic, James walked beside her, unusually quiet. When they reached the car, he turned to her, his expression serious. "Anna," he said, his voice low, "I need to tell you something." She looked at him, her heart racing. "This started as a business arrangement," he began, his tone uncertain. "But it's not that anymore. I didn't plan for this, but somewhere along the way, I realized I care about you, more than I've cared about anyone in a long time. I didn't expect it, and honestly it scares me, but it's the truth." Anna stared at him, her breath catching. "James." He stepped closer, his eyes searching hers. "You've changed everything, Anna. I can't imagine my life without you, or these babies. I want more than just this agreement. I want us to be a family." Tears streamed down Anna's cheeks as she laughed softly, shaking her head. "I've been in love with you for a long time, James," she admitted. "I just didn't think you'd ever feel the same." Relief washed over James's face as he pulled her into his arms. "You don't have to worry anymore," he whispered. "We'll figure this out together." At that moment, Anna felt the weight of her fears lift. For the first time, she didn't feel like she was alone. The days after their confession were filled with a mix of excitement and uncertainty. For the first time, Anna felt a sense of belonging in James's life, and he seemed lighter, as if he had shed the walls he had carried for so long. They spent more time together, talking about the future. James spoke of the changes he wanted to make, how he wanted to be more present for his children than his father had been for him. "I don't want them to grow up feeling like they don't matter," he admitted one evening as they sat in the nursery. "My father was obsessed with work, with control, and it made me feel like I was just a piece of his legacy. I don't want to repeat that mistake." Anna placed her hand on his. "You won't," she said softly. "The fact that you're even thinking about this shows you'll be a great father." James gave her a faint smile, but his eyes betrayed his fear. The night of the twins' birth came sooner than expected. Anna had been feeling uncomfortable all day, but she dismissed it as a normal part of late pregnancy. However, by evening, the discomfort turned into sharp pains. James found her clutching her belly in the living room. "It's happening," she gasped. He sprang into action, calling the doctor and rushing her to the hospital. The drive was tense, but James held her hand the entire way, his calm demeanor masking the storm of emotions inside him. At the hospital, everything moved quickly. Anna was taken to the delivery room, and James refused to leave her side despite the staff's suggestion that he wait outside. "I'm staying," he said firmly, holding Anna's hand. The hours that followed were intense, filled with cries, encouragement, and moments of silence that felt endless. When the first baby's cry filled the room, Anna burst into tears. "It's a boy," the doctor announced, holding up a tiny wriggling baby. Before they could fully process the moment, another cry followed. "And here's your girl," the doctor said with a smile. Anna was exhausted, but overwhelmed with joy as the babies were cleaned and wrapped in blankets. When the nurse handed her the twins, she felt a love so deep it was almost painful. James stood by her side, his usually controlled expression softened by awe. He reached out hesitantly to touch his son's tiny hand, then his daughter's. "They're perfect," he whispered. Later that night, after the babies were settled in the hospital's observation room, James sat by Anna's bedside. She was resting, but when she opened her eyes and saw him, she smiled. "You did amazing," he said softly. "So did you," she replied. James hesitated, then said, "I'm scared, Anna." She frowned. "Scared of what?" "Being a father," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know if I'll be good at it. What if I fail them? What if I let them down the way my father let me down?" Anna reached for his hand, squeezing it tightly. "You won't fail them, James. You're already showing that you care, that you want to be there for them. That's what matters." He looked at her, his eyes glistening. "I don't know what I'd do without you, Anna. You've given me something I didn't even know I needed." Anna smiled, tears forming in her own eyes. "And you've given me a family, something I never thought I'd have again." James leaned down, pressing a gentle kiss to her forehead. "We'll figure this out together," he said. The mansion was no longer quiet. The sound of babies crying, cooing, and giggling filled the air, and with it came a warmth that had been missing for so long. James and Anna adjusted to their new roles as parents, working together through sleepless nights and early mornings. Anna had never imagined this life for herself, but it felt right. Her days were spent caring for the twins and sneaking in moments to sketch while they napped. James, despite his initial fears, quickly grew into his role as a father. He was attentive, protective, and above all, deeply in love with the little family he and Anna were building. Linda stayed away for the first few weeks after the twins were born. She had been angry when James dismissed her opinions and sent Julia away, but something changed when she saw James and Anna with the twins during a surprise visit. James was holding his daughter, rocking her gently, while Anna sat nearby, feeding their son. The scene was simple, but it struck something deep within Linda. Later, when James was alone in the living room, Linda approached him hesitantly. "I was wrong," she said, her voice quiet. James looked up, surprised. "What do you mean?" "I've been fighting you on this, trying to control something that wasn't mine to control," Linda admitted. "But seeing you with them, I understand now. You've built something beautiful, James, and I'm sorry for trying to tear it apart." James studied her for a moment, then nodded. Thank you, Linda. It means a lot that you're saying this. Linda turned to leave, but then she paused. If you ever need help with the twins, or anything else, I'll be here. With James's encouragement, Anna began to share her artwork again. He helped her connect with galleries and collectors, and soon her pieces were gaining recognition. One evening she returned home after an exhibition, exhausted but glowing with excitement. They sold 3 of my paintings, she told James, holding up a check. I'm proud of you, he said, pulling her into a hug. Balancing her art and motherhood wasn't easy, but Anna felt fulfilled in a way she never had before. She had a family, a career, and a future that felt bright. One evening, after the twins were tucked into bed, James asked Anna to join him in the garden. The moonlight bathed the space in a soft glow, and Anna couldn't help but smile at how beautiful it all was. James held a small envelope in his hand. Do you remember this? He asked, showing her the contract she had signed months ago. Anna nodded, her heart racing. This was how it all started, James said, his voice steady. But it doesn't mean anything to me anymore. He tore the contract in half and let the pieces fall to the ground. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. I don't want a contract between us, he said, dropping to one knee. I want love. I want you. Anna, you've changed my life in ways I never thought possible. Will you marry me? Not because of the twins, not because of an agreement, but because I love you. Tears streamed down Anna's face as she nodded. Yes, James, 1,000 times, yes. He slipped the ring onto her finger, and they kissed under the stars, their future sealed with love instead of obligation. A few weeks later, James and Anna stood together in the garden where he had proposed. Surrounded by close friends, family, and the twins, they exchanged vows in a simple but heartfelt ceremony. Anna wore a flowing white dress, holding a bouquet of soft pink roses, while James stood tall in a tailored suit. The twins, dressed in tiny matching outfits, cooed softly in their seats nearby. I promise to love you, to support you, and to build a life with you, James said, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes. And I promise to stand by you, to cherish you, and to love you with all my heart, Anna replied. As they kissed, the guests clapped and cheered, and the twins let out happy giggles, as if they understood the significance of the moment. In the months that followed, life settled into a beautiful rhythm. The twins grew quickly, filling the house with laughter and love. Anna's art career flourished, and James found himself spending less time in his office and more time at home, cherishing every moment with his family. One evening, as they sat on the patio watching the sunset, Anna rested her head on James's shoulder. Can you believe how far we've come? She asked. James smiled, wrapping his arm around her. It's more than I ever could have hoped for,